right now. Calling out to all every crew, we gon' make it all happen right here, right now. Calling out to all every crew, we gon' make it all happen right here, right now. Calling out to all every crew, we gon' make it all happen right here, right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to Eggs. Today's guest is David Sigala. He's a Salt Lake City-based DJ and producer. He's a well-known radio personality and co-host of the 5 o'clock Traffic Jam with David Rolas on Latino 106.3 in Salt Lake. David is also currently promoting the Mi Cielo event at Sky nightclub in Salt Lake City with special guest and Eggs show alumni Jesse Medelas.
Yeah, we had him on last week.
This coming Friday, January 19th. So without further ado, allow me to introduce our guest and our new pal, DJ Dirty Dave, David Sigala.
Perfect. Hey, thank you guys so much for having me here today.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Really stoked to have you. So a little background on how this worked out. So last week's show, for anybody who's staying with us show to show, was with a special guest named Jesse Medelas. He's a Latin American recording artist, currently based in Los Angeles.
And didn't you find out about him just on Instagram? Like he liked one of our posts or something?
Well, that's the thing, right? So we're a young show. So part of how we're finding guests is, who's listening to our show, who's liking our posts, and if they're verified, we'll hit them up. so this is how we came up with Jesse Medelas. We didn't know him before that, but he was kind enough to give us a thumb up or a like on Instagram. So we hit him up, and he's got a new single out and some other music coming, and so he was excited to do a little press. And so he was more than gracious with his time, and he gave us about an hour to talk about his forthcoming music, and his background was really interesting. So if you haven't heard the show, please go back and listen. But when talking to Jesse, we got talking about how's the show happening in Salt Lake and all this stuff, how are all the pieces falling into place. And one of the names he dropped was David Sigala. He, not only said a bunch of positive things about Dave that are sort of, yet to be proven out. We'll see how this guy is. But he mentioned that he was the producer on this show, or the promoter of the event here in Salt Lake, and so we reached right out to Dave to see if he'd be interested in doing our show, and here he is.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You work with a radio station. You kind of fell into Latin music versus...
Yeah, it's a funny story. So, growing up, I started DJing, roughly in high school.
Doing house parties kind of thing?
Doing house parties, stuff like that. I used to be pretty good at basketball. That's what I used to do with my life, is just play basketball. But, something happened to my dad, and I had to, take care of the family. So I got a job, and I kind of quit my career in basketball for a bit. And, just music was always been a big part of my life. So that's how I kind of got into DJing. Got into my first job, and my homie that I met over there introduced me to Virtual DJ, which is one of my favorite programs.
I think pretty much every DJ in the industry goes through the Virtual DJ phase.
Yeah, the Virtual DJ phase. It's not a bad program.
No, it's great. I've never used it in a mixing environment, so I never got to actually mess around with it as far as like trying to blend music together. When I used it, I literally just created a playlist and hit play and walked away kind of thing.
Hey, it works, right? Whatever works. But to touch base on that, that's how I started. And, long story short, a couple of years passed by, I bettered my craft and stuff like that. And I'm here today throwing shows at Sky SLC with my business partner, Alden and David Rolas. And we're trying to bring a different environment here to Salt Lake City, which is never seen before.
So expound on that, like by different environment that they've never seen before. Is it just a Latin kind of party, or is it just, what's different about it?
So for people who don't know Sky SLC, which is probably the majority of our listening audience, Sky is it's a local nightclub here in Salt Lake, but they're
one
sort
of the bigger ones in Salt Lake.
Yeah, it's maybe the biggest.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The Vegas style venue, LED screens.
Yeah, it's cool. I saw Will Sparks there, and some other EDM type guys, but that's sort of been their bread and butter, right? There's a lot of EDM.
A lot of EDM and stuff like that. So, me and my partner Alden, I used to DJ Elevate, and I got into some trouble with the promoter over there. He doesn't really like me, but it's all good. All love.
That's the business.
That's the business. So
gotta have a couple
instead of burning a bridge, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and try something out. So we reached out to the guys at Sky, because I DJ'd there before EDM on their Saturdays and stuff like that. So they gave us an opportunity to do a Latin night there. And from there on, it's history. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and it's funny because a lot of people may not think of Salt Lake City as being like overly Latin. I think a lot of people's opinion of Salt Lake is that it might be among the whitest cities around. But there's actually a pretty heavy Latino contingent here. There's
very diverse.
A lot of
very
Hispanic
diverse
people, South Americans especially, living here in Salt Lake. And so it's interesting because before meeting Dave, we did an event at a venue down here too, and he said that the Latin night was his bread and butter. He's like, that's where, I mean, the people come out to dance at a Latin night, and so it's really cool that Sky has opened up their mind, I guess, a little bit and is trying out this Latin night.
Is this one of the first ones you've done at Sky, or is this kind of third, fourth, you've done it before?
So I've been doing Mi Cielo, which is the Latin night that we do here at Sky.
So what does Mi Cielo mean?
My Sky.
My Sky. Okay.
Yep, that's what it means. Right. So it was pretty good.
I'm not the Spanish guy. We got everyone else here that does that. I'm just here.
No, so our first show that we did was back in, I think it was May 26th.
Okay.
And ever since then, we've just been doing it once a month.
How was the first show?
The first show was really good. Really good. We had about 800, 900 people for the first show. So I mean,
that's not bad for
a first time
yeah,
for a show.
Great.
I mean, I think it was incredible.
Well, and how does the format work? So you bring in like a guest DJ, sort of a personality. In the case of the one this week, we've got Jesse Medeles, but I think both you're performing, and I think there's one other DJ on the bill, right?
Yeah. So there's one of my homies from a long time ago. He started DJing out with me. His name's DJ Jerry. He'll be opening up the night for us.
Nice.
And then I also have my good friend Nai, which will be performing as well. He's he's a winner of a kind of like American Idol back in, I believe it was in Venezuela or something like that.
Oh,
so,
cool.
So it's really good to have him on board.
Idol.
Oh, also, just FYI, we have Borja in the house. What's up, Borja? You haven't said a single word yet.
Well, yeah, I know.
I just didn't want you piping in like 20 minutes from here and having the fourth voice, like scaring people.
Yeah, so anybody who's missed the Borja factor since before Christmas, he's back in the house.
Yep.
So, all right. So, Dave, you sort of touched on it a little bit, but how did you make that transition from... Well, I guess really get into the music business, right? So, I mean, there's being a music fan, but then moving into radio, working as a DJ, and promoting. I mean, really, each one's sort of unique and distinct. And Mike and I actually have a lot of experience in the promotion world, but and he obviously has experience in the DJ world. But how did you, I guess, go from just doing it for fun to making it a business? Like, how did you make that step?
So, we're young. We're out here trying to get money. You know what I mean? As a young person, you want to do something big. So, me and my best friend, he always believed in me in the DJing aspect, and we would throw little shows here and there at the Murray Theater and little high school shows, little parties and stuff like that. And, it just kind of got bigger from there, we kept doing that. I kept doing shows for free, stuff like that. And then we actually started getting paid. So we started doing bigger shows. In that aspect, we helped promote, an EDM show where I got to open up for a headliner.
Oh, cool.
And, ever since then, we've just been working hard to actually make this dream happen. We don't own a venue, you have to rent it out, so you have to pay for it. But, it's easy if you just put your mind to it and you just be consistent with it, so.
Yeah, I think consistency is definitely key. It's much harder to come in out of the blue and do something the first time. And once you do kind of have that first show under your belt and you got the reputation going, it's easier to kind of, snowball downhill and keep it going and
exactly.
Make
it's always nerve-wracking, believe me. Every time I have a show, like I always get the butterflies. Like the first time, every time I get on the stage and I'm about to DJ, like they all just go away.
Yep.
I don't know why, but that's just how it is.
Usually for me, like if I'm in an environment where I'm kind of on a stage, like I'm actually like not hidden in the corner, just playing background music or whatever, and I'm actually performing for people, my hands shake and I get all jittery and stuff before I go on, and then once I'm on, it all goes away. It's like
I don't know.
It's weird.
It's just what it is.
Well, and from the production angle, obviously, I'm not doing a lot of entertaining for people, but I mean, both Mike and I were concert promoters for a number of years. And, I mean, that feeling of just sort of, God, is anybody going to come to this thing?
Exactly.
Oh, man, people aren't coming through the door fast enough. How are we going to pay this guy?
It's not even 9 o'clock yet, and you're sweating bullets thinking, like, we're not going to sell out.
And just to touch base on that, I mean, I don't know if you know, but Latin people are always late to everything. Everything.
I know that from my experience with the Spanish people.
So, I mean, the first shows that we ever did at Sky, like, it'd be like 10:30, and like, dude, there's no one here. There's like 20 people here.
11:30, it's cracking.
11:30, it's cracking. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. But yeah, no, I can definitely relate to those jitters.
So tell me about your very first show. Like, you know, I made some blunders definitely on the first few that I did, and as far as like over, you know, budgeting more than I should for certain things and not doing certain things. And tell me about, you know, like the thought of doing the first show, the actual making it happen, the promotion side of it, as far as like how long did you go out flyering cars? You just hit up your friends? Like what, just break down your very first show for me.
So the first show was at the Murray Theater. I had a chance to rock with DJ DiMaggio and DJ Jello, which are pretty well-known DJs here, and they're really good. But anyways, it was my first show. I just barely got my first DJ set like maybe a month ago, which was the NS7. Yeah. So I really wasn't too good, but I've always had a good music selection. I can tell you that. If we ever going on a trip,
the playlist was always on
if we're ever going on a trip, let me be that guy. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the first show, I was really, 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 really nervous. Like, bro, you don't understand. Yeah. Butterflies, like we had a good amount of people there. We had like 400 or 500 people in there. You know, it's a high school dance party. I mean,
so it was 18 venue. And up kind of deal.
I think it was 15 to 18 year olds. So
I ran into an issue doing one of those shows once where I promoted it for 3 months. Showed up the night of the event or the day before the event. I got an email from the prosecuting attorney from the city of Everett saying, if you do this show, you're going to be charged with a misdemeanor and yada, yada, yada. And I had to cancel it day of. Wow. Literally sat in the parking lot telling people to leave. It's pretty bad. But yeah, so Murray Theater, is it just a venue you can rent out and you got to bring speakers in and stuff like that? Or
yeah, so I mean, we know a guy. He does sound. He's a really good DJ as well. So he gives us a good price. So that's what we went with. He sets it all up with his sons and stuff like that. So first show, I was nervous. But I've always had the support from my family. That's first and foremost, you know, especially my mom. Like, she's always believed in me. So, you know, even though I was nervous and I did bad, you know, comparing to what I am now, like, or how I...
Well, you always look back on previous...
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I thought it was an accomplishment. You know, I didn't lose my cool or anything, but you know, I just did what I had to do, and I did it, well.
It's funny because you don't realize it in that moment, but I mean, you know, it's that old cliche, right? That every little step is leading towards something bigger.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you didn't recognize that maybe as a baby step at the time, but you know, depending on how it went, but I mean, the failure, the success, the whatever you pull out of that first event, it gives you the energy for the next.
Exactly. Yes.
And then you end up on the radio and all that other stuff down the road. And so, but that's what it requires, is taking those baby steps first.
Exactly. And you know, times have changed. You know, a lot of the promoting with the flyers doesn't really work.
Nope, not at all.
So I think it's kind of a waste of money. Everything's, you know, social media based nowadays.
What do you base most of your draw from? Facebook, Instagram,
word of mouth. Okay. We also use, you know, obviously the venues' websites and their social media as well. That's definitely a bigger push for us as well.
Yeah, well, and then working for the radio station, do they get behind you with this kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I still got to pay for my own ads.
Sure.
But they give me a great rate, and you know, sometimes you do got to spend a little money just to get your reach out to people that, you know, maybe not know what's going on that Friday. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you know, it's a competitive market too, especially here in Salt Lake. I mean, there's always stuff going on. You know, and so it's hard to stand out in the crowd. So it's really important to do that extra marketing and advertising, either on the radio or wherever. But so back to sort of what we introed with. Last week we had Jesse Medelis on the show, and we got your name from him. But how do you know him? How'd that relationship come about?
So I met Jesse through David Rolas. So, you know, working for the radio. You know, you meet people.
Sure.
So I guess him and David have this producer. His name is Alcover of ANX. I don't know if you guys know who ANX is. Mm-hmm. But they're Don Omar's producers. So I guess they were working.
I was wondering if that was the guy, because we did a little bit of research on him last week, and we did know that he worked with one of the guys that worked with Don Omar, and I was wondering if that was him. So.
Yeah, correct. So that's ANX. Alcover, he's, you know, pursuing his own independent artist career as well. But that's how I met him, is through David. I guess they were working on a project together. And, you know, I met Jesse through the phone. We were chopping it up. He seemed really cool.
Yeah, he seems really down to earth.
Sent me some of his music, and I was just blown away. And ever since then, you know, we've been really cool. I always play his music in the mix, you know, whenever I'm out in the club.
Ah, killer. So now this coming event, Mi Cielo, which one is this? Is this 2 or 3 that you've done already?
This is going to be, I believe, number 9.
Oh, wow.
So
this
it's
has been
been
going on
for a while.
8 or 9.
Is it a monthly thing or
It's
bi-weekly?
a monthly thing, yeah. So, I mean, if you guys don't mind, I can kind of go over the lineup of the artists that we've
Tell
had.
us about the event.
So let me tell you about the first show. The first show didn't go as planned. Actually, the headliner that was supposed to come due to weather problems didn't make it.
Oh,
so unfortunately, our first show was kind of a fluke. But we bounced back. DJ Nelson was supposed to be here. I don't know if you guys know who DJ Nelson is.
I know him.
But he's like the godfather of reggaeton, you know what I mean? Like he's one of the guys that influenced the whole movement. So that was one of our first shows. And then the next show after that, we had DJ Blast.
DJ Blast, DJ Nelson. We're talking about, important people in Puerto Rico. No?
Yeah, these are the guys that like push the movement, like working with these artists like Daddy Yankee, Wisin and Yandel, Don Omar, just working with everyone, trying to push the genre. And then the third night, I think we had a local night with David Rolas, you know, just to kind of switch it up. It was a good turnout, you know. And then we also had for our fourth show, we had ANX come actually.
Oh, cool.
We had Alcover perform and we had Ecstasy perform his DJ set.
Nice.
And that was a good experience. You know, I got to learn a lot from those guys and, you know, how you know, how much hard work it takes to be in the industry.
Yeah.
You know?
So are you making these connections through the radio station, or are you just kind of reaching out, like saying, hey, we've got this venue, we're looking for people, you want to come play? Or
Pretty much through the radio station. I mean, you know, you meet people and you just kind of network. You reach out to them. Hey, I'm doing this. And, you know, people that aren't so big, like, I mean, they're not so big headed. So, I mean, they'll kind of like, you know, they'll work with you. And, and that's what I like about, you know, some of these Latin artists is that they're willing to work with you. They're not big headed like some other artists, you know, and it kind of helps us because we're trying to bring a different experience here to Salt Lake City. And that definitely does help us.
I've reached out to just even some DJs that I didn't even think were of that high of a caliber that blew me off like it's nothing, you know.
You know what I mean?
It drives me nuts. It's like, okay, never mind. You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, at a minimum, you know, say no.
Yeah.
I mean, at least honor me with
Or
saying
not,
no.
yeah, the whole lack of reply thing just drives me nuts. You know, it's like, oh, maybe some other time when that's really a no, but just
say
blowing
no.
me off, drives me insane. But, so you've been with the radio. Oh, you were saying you were on like the 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
show
So
in the lineup.
so the 5th show, I mean, we had DJ Candy Boy. I don't know if you know who DJ Candy Boy is. He's Daddy Yankees and Yandel's official DJ.
Oh, so he goes on tour with them?
He goes on tour with them. Yeah, they just actually got back on tour from Ecuador or something like that.
Nice.
So it was a good show. And then for our 6th show, we tried to give back to the community for the people affected in Puerto Rico and stuff like that.
Did
For
a
the hurricane,
fundraiser
we did a
for it?
fundraiser. We raised about like almost $4,000.
Oh, wow.
That's not bad at
Donated
all.
to a couple
Well done.
charities.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you so much. And then actually for our, I think this was the 6th or 7th show, we had Nai perform, which is going to be performing again.
This weekend?
This weekend as well is going to be support for Jesse Medeles, direct support.
Nice. So have you kind of went over a set with Jesse, or have you just kind of just going to let him do his thing?
So me and Jesse have been talking. I mean, he wanted to do something a little different, so I kind of produced a little intro for him.
Nice.
Just to start off the show. And, you know, we just kind of vibe, you know. We just click. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, so at all these other Mi Cielo events, you've used DJs and things like that. Is this the first time you've used like a singer?
this will be the third time actually. ANX was actually a singer DJ
Performed that
set duo, but that you know, that's what I try to do. I mean, I try to bring DJs, but then I try to switch it up with like an artist or something like that,
Okay.
just so people aren't just used to the same thing and they actually see a little bit more activity on the stage.
Okay. Well, and maybe we've sort of touched on this, but tell us a little about Mi Cielo specifically. How did you come across this idea? What did you decide? You know, what brought you to want to create this type of event?
Oh, so like I told you guys before, I had a little bit of not problem, you know, just a sort of
Falling out.
falling out with the other promoter at this other club that I was DJing at, and they weren't booking me, you know what I mean? And I kind of rely my money on DJing sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, everyone got bills to pay, and
Right.
you know, me having a daughter and stuff like that, you know, I need to make some money. So me and my friend thought of an idea. I had told him to come by. I mean, he's not Latin, he's from Europe, but I just told him, hey, come by, you know, I'm DJing, whatever, cool, let's have some drinks, cool. And he came and he saw a big ass line.
He's like, hey,
Big ass line. And he's like, we should do this somewhere else. And at the time, you know, I was DJing for Elevate and Sky, but I was doing EDM at Sky. And then we just thought of an idea, and he was just like, why don't we do this same thing at Sky?
Okay.
And, you know, we pitched it to the guy, the owner of Sky, and, you know, he was like, you know what, let's try it. And it worked.
So, you know, going from EDM to Latin, what was the learning curve in that, and how? I mean, I've played at some venues where, you know, I'll throw down more Latin than normal just because the crowd's vibing on it. But I honestly don't know anything about the back. I don't know. I know a little bit of reggaeton. I know a little bit of, you know. That pretty much that's it.
Well, I think that's. I actually think that's, you know.
I go off of artist name.
He knows about Despacito, Mayores.
Mayores, yeah. I mean, it was. I mean,
merengue,
mambo. I mean, it wasn't difficult. I mean, once you know how to DJ, you know how to DJ. You know what I mean? Like, you just understand how music is structured.
Can you
and how
totally
it works.
like just fuck a night up by playing the wrong music and not know that you're playing the wrong music, or is it? You know, they'll just dance to anything and they enjoy it all.
I mean, when people have a couple drinks in them, I don't think it really matters.
You're not going to clear the floor.
Exactly. But I mean, like I told you before, I mean, transitioning from, you know, the EDM and the hip hop scene to the Latin scene, it wasn't really difficult for me. The only thing that was difficult for me is I wasn't really up to date with my music. Like, there's the salsa, the merengues, the bachatas and stuff like that, you know, not just reggaeton.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of a harder transition for me to kind of get up to date with all that music when I wasn't in that industry at the time.
Yeah. Is there any challenges you've come across in terms of trying to market yourself or advertise events, things like that, like new challenges for a Latin specific audience versus working just with general hip hop? I
mean, it's a little harder. I do see a little bit of difficulty me trying to expand and go back to like the EDM scene or the hip hop, just because people
now you're branded as
people
Latin
just
DJ.
brand me because I work for the Latin radio station, so they kind of just brand me as a Latin DJ. But, you know, I'm not. I consider myself an open format DJ, so it's a little bit hard. But, you know, we're still pushing and trying to find a solution so we can, you know,
do both.
Well, and we were talking a little bit before the show too about how sort of Latin music is kind of taking over the world.
Yeah, it's crossing over.
You know, I mean, with these songs like Despacito and some of these others that are just massive hits, but they're massive crossovers. I mean, the song's in Spanish and it's still a huge hit.
Exactly, and a lot of hip hop artists are, you know, actually crossing over and doing these remixes with all these Latin artists, which is good. I mean, I think it's good for the culture. And I really think music is evolving.
Well, what do you think, based on what you see in Latin radio specifically, but just in the industry in general, what do you see for sort of the future of music? Like, I mean, do you think it's going to be sort of a world music like that, where maybe, you know, it's not even language specific anymore, it's just music?
I don't think it's going to be language specific in the next 5 years. I just feel like it's just going to be, what's the word I'm trying to use? Just like a one language, you know what I mean? Like,
well, music is the universal
music
language.
is exactly universal language.
I was thinking about it. We were cruising, me and Borja were out the other day, and I was listening to this song La Modelo, and with Cardi B, and I don't even know who sings it, Ozuna. And but I was kind of cracking a joke or making fun of it because, like, it's all in Spanish, and then Cardi B drops this verse in English. He's like, come on, what's going on with
and
this?
It's kind of funny. I mean, even though Cardi B has, you know, her I believe she's from the República Dominicana. You know what I mean? So
so she could go into Spanish if she
could.
wanted
She
to.
could.
Yeah.
She sounds good. You know, I wouldn't say no to her crossing over.
Sure.
But it's just it's that time. You know, a lot of people are crossing over. Like I said, you know, you see the Latin artists crossing over with the hip hop artists, and the hip hop crossing over to the Latin. So I think it's a really interesting time for music right now.
I'm excited for it. Honestly, most of those crossover songs are the ones that do the best on the dance floor anyways. So.
And that's the funny thing. Like Daddy Yankee, Despacito, they put out a single and they put out a remix, and it's on the charts for longer.
Yeah.
And they put out another remix and it's out for longer.
Well, yeah, there's the Bieber version, the non-Bieber version.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, so they figure out how to get 2 billion listens out of that one jam. You know?
Exactly.
So That's pretty slick. But I mean, really, if you stop and think about it, I mean, the Latin market is enormous.
It's huge.
Just here in the U.S., we have 51 million native Spanish speakers on top of South America and Spain and everybody else speaking Spanish. I mean, it really is a huge genre. And, it makes sense to me that it would become more popular here in the States, just given, the sort of, and we live in a part of the country that, has a lot more Hispanic people in it maybe than further east. But I mean, culturally, it makes sense to me that there would be a lot of crossover. So tell us a little bit about just life on radio. What's it like working in the radio? What are the pros, the cons? What do you like about it?
I mean, radio's cool. It's different. Never thought I would be in a job like this.
So do you actually mix or do you just host the show? So
I mix and I host. I also am the production assistant for the radio station. So I help produce commercials for clients and stuff like that.
Nice.
So, and I'm also starting to work on their social media as a social media director as well. So
cool.
That's cool.
Well, yeah. So you've got two shows, right? So you've got the 5 o'clock traffic jam that you do with David Rolas.
Yeah, that's Monday through Friday from 5 to 7 p.m.
And then you were telling me earlier too, you've got like a mix show or something?
Yeah, we got a mix show that's syndicated in Latin America. It's called DCAC Radio. We have a couple of DJs on there like DJ Drew, DJ Steve, DJ Mario, and DJ Pepe. That are just a couple artists that are local here, but we do have other artists in different states like Miguel Mix, which is from New Jersey, and a couple of DJs in Miami like Smiley and DJ Wasad. So I mean, it's a really cool mix show. It's open format, a little bit more Latin based than anything, but you just rock out for a whole hour.
Just do your thing.
Yeah.
That's cool. So do you just bring on a different guest each week, or is it a bunch of guys working at once, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we have David Rolas is the main host, and we have a co-host, which is a woman. Her name is Erika Keka, which we just have fun. It's a party mix show, so we talk about things going on, and we have like what's the word I'm trying to use? Like a word of the day or something like that, like a phrase of the day, and we just touch base on it, and we just have fun doing the show, and it's a really cool mix show.
How often do that?
We do that every weekend. It's we do it live on Fridays and Saturdays, and Sundays we just program it, but we do it every Friday and Saturday live.
Where can they find that?
You can find it on our DCAC radio page, or you can listen to us. You can stream it live.
So that's dcacradio.com.
Or you can also stream it on the Latino 106. Hold on, LatinoSaltLake.com.
Cool. Well, yeah, and we'll make sure to share some links and
Put
stuff
it in the show notes.
Yeah, that'll make it a little easier for everybody. But that sounds really cool. That sounds exciting. We'll see about getting DJ Antic in the mix.
Yeah, definitely, man.
School the guy on his Latin music.
Give me a playlist and I'll kill it. Don't worry.
So cool. So I guess let's talk a little bit about your future then. So what's the plan? Like, do you plan to stick through radio? Do you think promotion's going to be your thing? What do you want to do?
I mean, I'm going to stick with the radio. I mean, you never know. There's always room for improvement. There's always room to move to a different market. Just depending on how good you are here, you know what I mean? You could probably go to a station out in San Antonio and, be the production assistant, music director. You never know. So, I mean, me being in radio, me being a DJ, that's kind of what I want to do for a living. That's what I'm doing now, but I do want to expand on it.
Do you want to stick in the Latin format, or do you want to kind of just go wherever the job is available?
Open format. I mean, wherever it's available. Never limit yourself. You know what I mean? If you limit yourself on one thing, your options are limited.
Makes sense.
Sure. Well, you mentioned, to go back to the beginning a little bit, but you mentioned having a lot of familial support, stuff like that. One of the questions we often ask for people who are entertaining or performers is, did you have any familial influence? Like, was there somebody in your life that was musically inclined or something that maybe steered you in this direction?
Did you play any instruments or anything like that?
Or did it just sort of come out of you?
I don't know. Like, I don't really have any musical talent. I mean, I've just learned through trial and error.
There's this meme floating around a while ago of Nirvana holding a thumb drive where his guitar was, and it's like, ask a DJ if he plays an instrument, and it's that meme.
Well, it's funny. So one of the things that's come up in this show that I think was maybe a little bit unexpected, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, or feel free to add to it, was that, so when we first talked about doing a podcast, the sort of, we were trying to come up with subject matter, what are we going to talk about, that kind of thing, and we sort of originally talked about this being sort of a creativity show, and it was really more about creativity, more than this process thing that we talk about nowadays. And but one of the things that sort of was born out of this conversation, and as we've done more and more of these, is how similar the DJ business is actually to what I do, which is advertising and marketing. And as an art director, the sort of the creative process that I go through, it might be visual, but you guys are doing the audible version of it. So it's funny to me that, you know, because I mean DJs get a lot of crap for not being musicians necessarily, you know, per se,
But the
or they don't
creativity
play
aspect
an instrument.
is there.
Yeah, well,
you know?
and that's what I was going to try and say, is that I feel like they sometimes get discounted as somehow being less than or not as talented as, you know, maybe somebody who can play guitar or whatever. But I think that you're trying to compare an apple and an orange. You know, these are two different businesses.
Exactly. The amount of prep work and behind the scenes stuff that most people going to the club will never even think. They think we're just up there drinking, having fun, and partying. They don't know that we spent 10 hours tagging music and finding the best.
So that you could drink and party at the club.
Exactly, right? But there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that most people don't know. I mean, like we'll go and we'll make an a cappella intro to a song just so that we can blend it and make it, you know.
Exactly. It's a lot of work.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, and that's, I think, one of the things, you know, I mean, we have a fair about, you know, just because of mine and Mike's backgrounds, I mean, we have a lot of DJs on this show, and I think that that's one of the things where DJs sort of get short shrift is I think people are quick to joke about, oh, you're just playing everybody else's music and blah, 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 you know, like not really taking into account that, like, for me, my tools might be pens and pencils and a computer or whatever, but in you guys' case, it's Serato, it's, you know, the DJ things, the
Ableton,
Pioneer tables, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but
1200s, the rain mixers, you know.
Yeah,
just,
I mean, but that's your tools of the trade, you know.
Well,
but
and the thing is too is like on top of that, most people don't realize. Okay, so we're putting these parties together, we're putting these shows on. How are you going to run the lights? Okay, now you got to figure out how to run DMX. Now you got to figure out how to do all this other bullshit that most people wouldn't even take on.
Well, and especially in the beginning, you know, I mean, it's not like you guys go right out and make gross money in your first few shows, you know, so you're the one-man band.
And you're trying to buy equipment. You're trying to, you know, every day you got to buy a laptop. You got to buy these $400 headphones. You got to.
Well, yeah, it's the tech equivalent of the old timey guy, you know, in vaudeville with the drums that also had the cymbal and the harmonica and all that stuff. You know, this is the modern, like, high tech version of that.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so I think it's really cool, this line of work, and I really think that it's applicable to this show specifically because of that creativity component. And so even though you joke that you don't play any instruments, you know, I still think, you know, you definitely have a tool. And just like Mike here, you know, I mean, the more that you guys work with your tool, the better at it you get. I mean, there's a night and day difference between somebody that just bought the gear and
there's a night and day difference between me last year and me today. You're always getting better. You know, it's just a matter of how much you practice and put into it. So, have you? When you first started that first show at the theater to now, I mean, is there one show in particular that kind of stands out where it was the perfect night? You know, because I get those once a year. It's like the perfect storm where you're like, God damn, that was a show.
I mean, the thing I'm most proud about in my career is just the following that I've gotten through the years. You know, I have a lot of supporters, a lot of family members, a lot of friends that, you know, to this day, since, you know, back to the Murray Theater days, like, they still support me to this day. And, you know, the first show for me, Sigala, was really like one of them. Because, I mean, even though there's people that don't speak Spanish or something like that, like, they were there to support me. And I think that was like one of the shows that, like, will forever stay in my mind.
Yeah, there's something about all your hard work and effort coming to fruition. And like I did a big show one time and we sold a lot of tickets. It took about 6 months for it to actually come to pass. And when it actually was there and, you know, the show was going on, I just kind of sat back and was like, holy shit, this was good. You know, just knowing that show happened because of your work and your effort.
Exactly.
And without that, it wouldn't have even gone on.
Well, and it's funny, you know, I mean, this show's unique in that we both have a really insider perspective to what you're talking about when you're promoting an event, because I think, you know, when a person comes to a show, they don't think of any of the heartburn or whatever that you've experienced over the last few weeks or months preparing.
All the emails you sent, all the, you know, hey, can you do this? You know, networking with the venue, setting up just the bullshit stuff that most people don't even think about. I remember one show with ticketing was a big issue for us for a little while because we didn't want to break down and actually pay to print tickets. And so we went to, what was it, FedEx or Kinko's and printed them off. And then we went and got some UV stamps and stamped the back of the ticket to validate it.
That's actually a smart idea.
You know, because someone was, you know, some bright ass would go and just make a copy of the ticket and here we go. And we run them through the black light, and we could actually see that it was a fake.
Yeah,
but,
and and it's funny because even though back then when we were doing these small shows, even the financial commitment wasn't huge. I mean, they were big for us, but I mean,
1,000, 1,500 most kind of night.
I think the biggest one that we did in that era was maybe that head PE show that was like $3,000 or something, And so, I mean, they weren't massive shows, but at the same time for us, like $100 show, $3,000 show, $10,000 show, it's like you feel the same,
It's as stressful as the first one, you know?
Yeah, it's brutal. So that's cool. And congrats on the success of Mi Cielo. And,
have you gone down the whole looking for sponsors and all that stuff, or is that kind of...
I mean, maybe in the future. I just feel like we're not big enough yet.
Yeah.
We're still building. I mean, even though we've been doing it for 8 or 9 months, we have a solid base, but I don't feel like we have a foundation yet. So, I'm just going to keep pushing and...
Hit up the liquor reps, the bar reps.
Yeah, definitely. I want to get a sponsorship by Hennessy.
There you go.
Just kidding.
That wouldn't be
Budweiser was one of our best ones down there. They did the True Underground Music in Phoenix, and they would give us $1,000 budget every month just to come in, and they would print all our materials. So we had a big poster the size of this wall behind the bands. They'd give us radio spots and do all our flyers. And so
putting Budweiser on the bill made it look a little bigger and stuff like that. And I mean, it was a really cool experience. We had a great sponsor down there. So cool. Well, I guess then let's talk a little bit more about the future. You said you're going to do radio, but let's maybe talk bigger. So we talked a little bit about the future of music, things like that. What do you think is the future for Mi Cielo? Are you going to are we going bigger and better with talent every time? What do you anticipate for sort of next steps with Mi Cielo specifically, and any future events that maybe you might be thinking about or putting together?
I mean, as of right now, I do want to bring bigger and better talent, as time goes by. I want to get to the point where I can bring Ozuna, or I can bring, Daddy
Almighty.
Yankee, or Almighty, or I can bring, the bigger artists to perform, or even bigger DJs to perform. But everything is baby steps.
If Almighty comes, or Ozuna, or come on.
he's all flying back from Barcelona. I heard they played in Salt Lake. Let's go.
Come on, I've been listening to that for a while. In Spain, it's not that big because reggaeton is huge, but not like trap artists or rap artists.
It's still underground.
Still underground. They talk dirty, so it's not easy to...
Can't play it in front of your mom, I know.
in front of too many people.
I mean, that's how music's always been. Back to hip hop, back in the days, just swearing words. You know how
Hiding
it
the
is.
CD from your parents. Yeah, that's funny.
No, but it's cool to have the ambition to bring Almighty or to bring those artists, because those artists that are really big. I mean, maybe they are not so famous here in Salt Lake in particular, for example, but those guys, come on, they have like hundreds, thousands of millions of views on YouTube.
Yeah.
On streams on Spotify.
Well, that right there will tell you something. I mean, if they're getting millions of views just on their YouTube channel or on their Spotify playlist, the market speaks for itself. And that's something that I kind of had to sit back and think about doing radio. I do a mixed show for Power 93 in Seattle, usually once a month, twice a month. And lots of the songs that I have to play, it's like, shit, I don't like this. Why am I playing this song? It's not my jam.
It's a lot of politics with the music.
It is, but at the same time, you also got to look at what the demographic is demanding, and if they're charting high and if they're getting the plays, then
you got to play it. Yeah.
Yep.
They have clout.
Yeah, this is one of Borja's new words, clout.
Clout.
So, he's learning English. He's he's pretty established as an English speaker, but
so Almighty.
Clout was a new word for him. So so I guess one other thing I wanted to ask you, because I know how Mike handles it, but I'm just out of curious as a DJ, how do you handle the drunk lady that comes and makes requests?
Just tell them to
man.
fuck off. That's pretty much what
Do you have a system for this? Do you use technology, SMS requests?
SMS.
How do you handle this?
I mean, usually in the club environment, there's always that one person that comes up to you.
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to them.
Well, see, here's the deal. It's like, it depends on the venue. If it's someone that's in the VIP area and they just spend $1,000 to sit there and do that, you kind of have to do a little bit more for that.
But when it's
client.
1:45 a.m. and it's just the last barfly left at the counter,
that's when you just kind of, sure, I'll get that on next.
The thing I hate the most from requests is, I know I've played that song earlier in my set.
10 minutes ago.
10 minutes ago.
And that's why it's in their head, right? Because you just played it.
And they come and ask you, hey, can you play Mayores one more time? I'm like, bro, I just played it.
Yeah. What is the song they asked you more times?
I mean, it just depends.
It depends on whatever's hot at the time.
Yeah.
Like right now, that Finesse song by Bruno Mars, I get that twice a night.
The Cardi B remix, of course, talking about Latino.
Yep, definitely.
Man.
So, what's your gig bag look like? What do you carry around? What's your must-have?
Well, obviously, hard drive is, you never know when your computer might crash or something. So you always got to have your stuff backed up. Of course, my laptop, my headphones, spare cables.
I just went on, I had a buddy hit me up in Phoenix. He teaches a college class. Shout out to Jeff at Mesa Community College for actually DJing, for up and coming DJs. And he just sent me a questionnaire the other day. And he asked, what's your, under $100, what's your most used or vital piece of equipment that you have? And I told him, I was like, dude, I would have to say my miscellaneous cables bag is my
I have a whole milk crate full of miscellaneous cables.
I keep a little headphone bag in my backpack that has extra USB cables, 1/4-inch to 1/8-inch adapters, just stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think you would need, but then when you show up to a gig and you don't have an adapter for something or you can't plug into a mixer because it's a different, cable, just having that saved my ass so many times. So it's, just thinking ahead and being prepared for shit. It's kind of important as a DJ.
Especially when you're on the road, you know what I mean? You might leave your USB here, you might leave your XLR there, and you need to have an extra one for...
It's always that $5 piece of equipment that can ruin your night. We did... back when I was working with LJ down in Phoenix, we used to do these huge high-dollar events, and we'd bring in full-on nightclubs into high schools to do lighting for them for their proms. And there was one time we set up, and we were using this, it's a Hog 500 lighting controller, and it's 5-pin DMX output, and all of our lights use 3-pin DMX. So you have to have a cable converter or an adapter that goes from 5-pin to 3-pin, and we left that at home. And we just set up for a $10,000 show, and we couldn't run any of it because we didn't have that adapter. Luckily, we had a buddy that was in the area that had one, and we were able to call him. He was able to drop it off, but it's that $10, $15 piece that'll fuck you over, and you won't even know it until
exactly.
But
all right, so without getting too personal, this is one of the things that I sort of like to ask people too. We've talked about some of the successes and some of your high points, like kicking off Mi Cielo and some of the success that you found that way and through the radio and things like that. But what about the other side? What are some of the hardest parts you've hit, or the biggest failures, or most down moments that you've experienced as a DJ? And then how did you deal with it? How did you respond?
I mean, there was a point in time where I did give up DJing for about 1.5 years. I just didn't feel like I was where I needed to be at the time. I'm a very impatient person.
Yeah.
I always strive to be the best, and if I don't get it my way, then I kind of I beat myself down. And I was about 20, 21. I just stopped DJing for a while just because I was just going through some hard times and financially and stuff like that. I lost my job, and it was just crazy. I had really low self-esteem, and but every time I would get back on those turntables, all of my problems would go away. And that's what kind of just kept me in it. Even though I did give it up for a while and stuff like that, music's always been an outlet for me.
I think we all kind of go through that. We question our career choice. Because it's one of those things where, there's no security in it, really. There's no, you're kind of going day to day, just gig to gig. And sometimes you have to step back and reevaluate why you're doing it, and I've done that probably 3 times now. So
I mean, it happens to everyone. Midlife crisis. Quarter life crisis. Everyone goes through it.
Well, the thing is it's one of those careers too, or some people call it a career, some people call it a job. Whatever you want it to be. That it's very hard to step away from, because it's not very often you can go and work on a weekend and make more than most people make in their whole week or their whole pay period. And if you get to the point where you're doing that Friday, Saturday, Thursday night, 2 or 3 times a week, it's a pretty good little income, but it takes a while to get there.
Exactly. I mean, DJing's a decent job and stuff, but it's never, ever secure. I mean, there's always going to be somebody out there.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's maybe the struggle of creative people in general, just to sort of generalize it a little bit. I mean, anybody really, I know who's self-employed in the creative space, even folks that work for ad agencies and stuff, I mean, nothing's secure ever.
Yeah.
One client problem, one dropped account, one whatever, and you're out on your butt, and that happened to me a couple times. And so I can relate.
And right around the holidays too.
And that was working for somebody, you know what I mean? And so, but I think being self-employed, working for yourself, setting your own schedule to some degree. I mean, I understand you've got a radio career and stuff too, so your schedule's not completely independent, but I mean, it's much more fluid than if if you're moving freight at, Home Depot or something.
Exactly. And, that's what I'm, kind of thankful for is everything just kind of ties into what I do. And, it does give me the opportunity to do something, at my job to prepare for the show. You know what I mean? I have the tools. I have them all there working for the radio. So,
yeah. Well,
cool.
we're getting to that hour mark. Is there anything you want to go over specifically before we call it a wrap?
I mean,
recap the show this Friday, I guess, because that's going to definitely go down.
Let's get some plugs out there. So, what do you got coming up? What are you working on? And let's talk about the event this weekend.
Cool, perfect. So, we got the event coming up here this Friday, the 19th, at Sky SLC. Another round of the Latin night that's called Mi Cielo. We got the homie Jesse Medeles coming through. We got my homie Nai performing, and we also got the homie DJ Jerry also opening up for us.
Nice. Are you going to throw down?
Yes. Okay. It's a little special birthday set.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, let us be the first to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
coming up
it.
On Monday, the big 2-5.
Nice.
I got to say that, just on a personal note, I had a complete meltdown at 25. So if you make it out of it, good for you. My wife had to give me a Ninja Turtle birthday cake to try and temper the old man, I'm going to die. We're at the end of the road.
Was this before I met you? It can have
25. No, you probably were.
I was around. I don't remember a midlife crisis.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I lost it. So good luck. I mean, it was short lived. I got over it after a day or two. But it was like, for whatever reason, 25 was a milestone.
Like we were talking about before, everyone goes through it. You'll go through it. He's been through it. I've been through it. Everyone at some point in time will go through it.
I'm hitting my 35 on Saturday. So
I'm good a couple more years. But when I hit 40, we're screwed. Yeah. It's the end of all things. So with that, let's just sign her off. We'll give a couple plugs. You can catch our guest DJ Dirty Dave on Instagram and Twitter at DJ Dirty Dave. You can also follow or learn more about Mi Cielo specifically on Instagram and Twitter at Mi Cielo SLC. On Facebook, we've got Dave is at Dirty Dave 11. And also at Mi Cielo SLC if you want to get some more information on the show.
Can they buy tickets to the show at Sky's website?
So what we got going on is we haven't gotten to selling the tickets yet. What we're doing is we're doing a free guest list. You sign up for it either on the LatinoSaltLake.com website, or you can also go to the Sky website and just find the event. You can sign up.
Have to be there before 10 kind of thing.
Be there before 11.
Yep.
After 11, you got to pay to get in. But other than that, I mean, if you're there before 11, you're pretty much free.
Yeah, and for anybody that hasn't gone out to Sky before, it's a cool club. It's like Vegas style, right in the heart of Salt Lake. So it's actually it's pretty unique for the area.
There's a lot of good stuff around it too, if I remember correctly.
The music's good, the bar's good, the little street it's on is great.
Yeah, good food. There's a lot of restaurants if you're trying to get something to eat before you.
Yeah, so if you want to come out and have a good time, join some of the Eggs crew. I don't know who I'll be there, but a few of us will be.
I have to work.
Yeah, I know. I'm pretty sure Borja and I will both be at Mi Cielo this Friday.
Sure.
And we're looking forward to it, meeting Jesse Medeles and his management and hanging out here with our pal DJ Dirty Dave. So final plugs, DJ or David Sigala is on KBMG Latino, which is 106.3 FM here in Salt Lake City. He's on the 5 o'clock traffic jam, the mix show with David Rolas. Monday through Friday, 5 to 7. And what's the time on your mix show?
The DCAC is DCAC radio shows Friday through Sunday, actually, 7 p.m. to 12 a.m.
Perfect. So you can get your jam on if you can't go to the club.
Loving the hustle, man. Lots of outlets to get your stuff out. So props on that.
Thank you, man. Appreciate
really cool. So to learn more about me, Ryan Rogar, or my company, R2 Media Group, visit us at r2mg.com.
You can find out more about me at djontic.com. That's ONTIC.
Borja Factor, got anything to say about yourself?
Oh, I'm just...
I like Cheetos.
Very glad about having a Latino guest today and be able to talk about the music I really like and the music I am more expert about.
Good.
It's always learned to have this kind of guest, guys. So
Yeah.
this will work about it.
We'll try and work around your schedule there.
Yeah.
We'll make it.
We're trying to bring more trap artists or producers. That's the show I like. But I like every episode, so it's okay to me.
Well, and that'll be the thing. We'll have to do the studio tour down there and see if there's a future for the Borja Factor over there. So anyway, with that, learn all you need to know and more about the show at eggscast.com. We're also at Eggs Show on Twitter and Instagram. And that is about it for this week.
That's a wrap. Thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
No, thank you guys for having me here on the show. I do appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
We're stoked to have you. Everybody, once again, Club SLC Friday, the 19th of January for Mi Sigala.
Cool. And that's a wrap.